Good afternoon. This is Chief Dsta'hyl of the Sun House of the Transpacific clan. And yes, I am part of the Wet'suwet'en Nation. Canada is basically committing economic treason on all of its citizens by giving all of our resources out to multinational corporations there from other parts of the world. The Transpacific Partnership, which basically puts Canada in a position of trying to build the infrastructure to move product from the tar sands and northeastern British Columbia, to all of these Asian markets. So they're bound by that. So this is why Canada is trying to build all of this infrastructure, is because they have made a commitment to all these other 10 countries. And these 10 countries are going to hold them to it, because the way that this partnership was arranged is that if Canada pulls out, they're liable. You look at the Coastal GasLink project. The Coastal GasLink project is basically part of the Transpacific Partnership, and LNG Canada came out of this Transpacific Partnership. So you look at LNG Canada, Royal Dutch Shell is 40%, and Petronas is 25%, and then you got Japan, which is 15%, and PetroChina, 15%, and then the Korean oil and gas you're looking at is 5%. So Royal Dutch Shell owns 40% of LNG Canada, and how they are linked is through Brunei, and the country of Brunei is basically just over 5,000 square kilometers, which is a quarter the size of the 22,000 square kilometers of the Wet'suwet'en territory. Brunei is a country that really speaks highly of their pristine forests and all of the pristine, environment that they have. Their main industry is oil and gas. Their imports and exports of oil and gas. This is the conduit that Royal Dutch Shell is using in order to push through this Coastal GasLink project. And the Canadian government are, in direct violation of many different human rights problems that we have by the genocide that they are committing on the Wet'suwet'en people right now. And Brunei is not an ethical country. It's run by a sultan. The fact that by being in partnership with Brunei, they're endorsing, the persecution of human rights there in that country as well, where you could be executed, for being homosexual or blasphemy against their religion. So these, are punishable by death. And these are the partners that, the Trudeau government is making their bed with. And what we have to do is we have to stand up to this. One of the things that we've done is we made an agreement there with the provincial government back in the early 2000 through an LRMP, where we have zero cumulative effects there on our water, rivers, lakes. The provincial government is in complete violation of this agreement by trying to push this pipeline through. What we've done so far is we've launched a court case, against the federal government in regards to climate action, which basically encompasses all of the problems we have on our territory from all of the climate changes that have been happening. And you look at the Site C. The Site C is not because BC needs power, it's not because Canada needs power. The Site C dam is strictly for oil and gas. It's got nothing to do with the population, strictly oil and gas, and that's why they're pushing so hard and fast forward. And my prediction is they would want to privatize that to the oil corporations as well as soon as it's built. It's going to be you paying for it, I'll be paying for it, and what they want to do is it's strictly for moving oil and gas. That's where all of this power is going to be for. So these are things that we have to keep in mind. And also, you look at the Conservative government's promise. They said if they are elected, they are going to immediately lift the tanker ban. And you look at the agreements there that is made with the 20 bands that signed on, they weren't given a choice. They had to concede, because when Coastal GasLink came to them, They said, we're going to build this pipeline regardless, so you either sign on, get benefits, or you just don't sign on and you do not get benefits. So they weren't given a choice. So what ends up happening in these type of situations is that people have their hands tied behind their back. The Wet'suwet'en have their hands tied back. The Carrie-Sakani have their hands tied behind their back. And Kitimat, I'm not too sure, because they have always been pro-industry. But these are problems that we're faced with, and I think that we have to be very serious and really exercise our due diligence on trying to get to the bottom of this. And I think everybody has to do their part. And I think it's really important there, like I was commenting earlier about the Wet'suwet'en, the Laksamichu, taking up this court case on climate. The climate court case is basically to show how we are heavily impacted on the 22,000 square kilometers. You know, all of our forest is gone, and mining has contaminated so much of our rivers. And then you look at all of the other industries there that are really heavily impacted. Nobody gets bailouts from the government. Nobody. You know, so back in '79 when the recession hit, nobody got bailouts. And why is oil and gas, you know, the multi-billion-dollar corporations getting bailouts, you know, when Canada is suffering? You know, we've been cheated out of our 22,000 square kilometers. A lot of you people may not know about the whole Delgamuukw-Gisdaywa court case. You know, the person that was very instrumental in putting it together and who was the architect of the Delgamuukw-Gisdaywa court case was Hanamuk Don Ryan. And he organized the Gitxsan and the Wet'suwet'en to initiate a court case, a title case there for the whole 22,000 square kilometers. We lost in BC, you know, from Judge McEachern, and then we took it, did an appeal process and brought it to the Supreme Court of Canada, where we had a favorable decision. And this favorable decision stated very, very clearly that the federal government, like, our rights have never been extinguished, and the federal government has a clear obligation to have proper consultation with the Wet'suwet'en. And by proper consultation, meaning if there's going to be any development on our territory, the federal government is obligated to come to the hereditary chiefs and make arrangements, you know, for anything to do. And the same with the provincial government. None of them did that, you know, for this Coastal GasLink project. The band government structure was put together by the federal government to administer funds on the band at the band level. What it did was it forced all of the Wet'suwet'en into an entitlement situation. So we've suffered now from imposed entitlement from the federal government for 6 to 7 generations. And this is what we're trying to break away from, and this is why this court case was so important. So these are problems that we all are faced with. And I think it's important, you know, that all of us do our due diligence and we investigate, you know, the whole Transpacific Partnership and start looking at, you know, the different problems that we're going to be faced with down the road. Canada was put into a really precarious situation in regards to oil and gas, because you look at our Prime Minister today, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, he's not acting like a Prime Minister. He is acting like a CEO for oil and gas. And that's what Stephen Harper also did when he tried to create the petrodollar. He tried to make Canada, you know, into a petrodollar as opposed to, we used to be agriculture. And like I said, what Stephen Harper did was very dastardly. What he did was he shut down, you know, all of the climate research there in northern Canada, and he stopped short of criminalizing science, you know, which all of us are going to be heavily impacted into the future by. And then you look at British Columbia, you know, they got the Oil and Gas Commission, which is a rogue outfit put together by oil and gas for oil and gas, and they put it under mining. And they are given billions and billions of liters of water, you know, from the Peace River. They're making dams up the Peace River, and they're using that water they're siphoning it off for oil and gas, for all of the hydraulic fracking. Their big pitch all the time is they're trying to sell you frack gas as a bridging fuel, saying there that it's cleaner than coal and it's going to go to these Asian countries. By the time the greenhouse gases that is created by the extraction of all of these different fracking practices that they have, it's not cleaner, it's actually dirtier. You got all of the different benzene and different chemicals there that are coming out of the ground and that are the oil and gas industry workers are exposed to. It's very serious. And you look at all of the other environment and the animals, moose, deer, caribou, and migratory birds, and all of these different aspects there of the oil and gas industry, and they're very heavily impacted as well. So when you look at the carnage that this industry leaves behind, it's a complete unethical industry. And that's not just animal carnage, it's human carnage as well. Because you look at the tar sands, they're exempt from all health regulations in the tar sands. You're not allowed to fly over, you're not allowed to go in, you're not allowed to take pictures, and this is all basically a cover-up from the federal and provincial governments there to protect, the corruption that's within their governments. And I think it's really important there that, Canada wakes up and starts fighting back. We started looking at, our climate, we started looking at the Kyoto Accord, we started looking at all of the different aspects of the oil and gas industry, and we have to shut them down. So you have to go after your provincial governments, your federal governments, and anybody that you can, and you have to do your due diligence, and you have to try to shut them down however you can. And the Wet'suwet'en will be benefiting from anything that you do to help us. And that's really important, because right now we are not recognized. And right to date, we have an agreement in principle, but it's not real until the ink dries on the paper. And I think it's really important that this fight continue and we don't back down for anything until we get some results. Thank you so much.